You're listening to the Mike on the Right podcast.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the Mike on the Right podcast. This is episode 39, and it is a release date of January 28th, 2026. And as always, I'm broadcasting from the heart of the snowy heartland, the crossroads of America, the great Hoosier state. Continue to like, share, subscribe, 5-star ratings. Thank you so much for your listenership and your support. And as always, you can listen to this episode, you can watch this episode and all the others before it at mikeontheright.com. It'll take you to any of your favorite streaming platforms, whether you want to watch video or listen to the audio. Thank you so much for being here. And yes, this episode is delayed. The snowstorm is not what stopped us. We had a family emergency. Everybody is okay. We spent several days out of the house with a family emergency. Everybody is good. And we're just continuing to work through that, but nobody is hurt. Everybody is fine. But with being out of the house, being gone, and I don't want to get into too much detail. If you know me, you know what happens. If you have a question, you're welcome to text me and ask. But everybody is good. Everybody is fine. We are all home. Everybody is safe. And we are thankful for that. But that precipitated this being delayed, and I'm kind of glad it has, because so much is happening right now up in Minneapolis and in Minnesota, and I want to get into that discussion at length. And so this episode is a one news item episode, because I think it's going to take that long to kind of get through the entire thing. Because the title of today's show is Mayhem in Minneapolis: What America Should Change. And I want to look at this holistically, because oftentimes in any scenario and situation, especially when politics is involved, we have implacable positions. We have, one side and the other. And we have a lot of absolutes. And sometimes there's a mushy middle, and sometimes there are, and sometimes that's great and sometimes that's not. Like for instance, there are certain things that I believe 100% that I would never change my mind on. But there are also some things that we need to have thought and process and all those kind of things. And this is definitely one of them. Because what's happening in Minneapolis on so many levels is just caught up in this tornado of emotion. And when we lead with emotion, when we speak with emotion, more times than not, we are wrong in some or most circumstances. Instead of letting the facts bear. Now, I have done that in my life. Don't get me wrong. This is not to preach at anybody. More so probably to myself, to remind myself that leading with emotion that's not leadership. It's just not leadership. And we got a lot of people on both sides leading with emotion in this situation, and we need level-headed people, and I think that's coming. But we're going to talk about just kind of this holistically. We're going to talk about what's happened in Minneapolis, why it's happened. We're going to talk about the 2 deaths that occurred and the differences between them. We're going to talk about illegal immigration and what the law really says. We're going to talk about why we need to fix the legal immigration system. We're going to talk about the shifts and changes that are happening in Minneapolis. We're going to talk about why this is happening in Minneapolis and in most cases nowhere else. We're just going to look at this holistically, because more than one thing can be true at the same time. We can be pro-immigration in the legal way and anti-illegal immigration at the same time. We can be pro-enforcement and pro-compassion at the same time. We can be pro-law enforcement and pro-care for these people, even if they're illegal immigrants. We can still have compassion on those people. The criminals are one thing. We can still have compassion for those who aren't. All of these things can be true. And so let's look into this. First of all, how did we get here? So back at the beginning of the year, the federal government launched a major immigration enforcement action in Minneapolis known as Operation Metro Surge, deploying thousands of agents of ICE and a border patrol to arrest criminal aliens and enforcing federal immigration laws. The stated mission was to target serious criminal offenders, gang members, and national security threats hiding in the community and federal officials claimed it was part of a broader national rule of law initiative. Minneapolis became the focal point, partly because the local courts and prosecutors have historically taken a soft approach to illegal activity in general, specifically for this conversation in the illegal immigration area, leading federal authorities to believe strong action was necessary. But the intense enforcement, as people have seen it, in a major U.S. city has led to unrest, it's led to protest, and it's of course natural attention, especially when incidents escalate into tragic outcomes. And we talk about this because of what's happened to Renee Good and to Alex Pretti, and I think I'm pronouncing that right. Two people who have been shot while impeding immigration operations, illegal immigration operations, lawful carrying out of the law. Now, that doesn't mean because they're impeding that means that they automatically should be killed. In Renee Good's situation, and I addressed this in a previous episode, it is 100% clear to my eyes that she hit that guy, that officer, that law enforcement officer with her vehicle. Now, in the moment, that officer doesn't have the opportunity to be like, well, I wonder if she meant it. I wonder if she was trying to leave. I wonder. He is in immediate danger. Now, I will always say you are innocent until proven guilty in this country, regardless. And the circumstances need to be investigated, and the circumstances need to come to light. And as more and more of those camera angles have come out, it's like, oh man, like I don't know what I would have done in that situation if I had been armed. If a car was coming at me and lurching at me, even if its wheels are turned, that just because the wheels are turned doesn't mean, oh, they must be trying to port round me as I get nailed in the hip and have internal bleeding when this person was resisting being arrested and pulled out of the vehicle for impeding lawful action. I'm not saying that you can't protest. I'm not saying you can't do anything. You have a First Amendment right to protest. You do not have any right whatsoever as an American to impede lawful enforcement of any law. That's lawful. And don't come here and tell, well, people are trying to connect all this to 1937 and people are trying to connect this to the revolution. And it's a bunch of disingenuous people leading with emotion rather than leading with facts and logic that are trying to tell us these historic parallels that none of them. This is not some tyrannical government showing up. This is law enforcement on laws that have been passed by Republicans and Democrats for generations, that we have just had pansy presidents of both parties who have not enforced the law. The one that honestly enforced it the most before Donald Trump was Barack Obama, and there were never protests. Now, maybe they weren't as intense today because, again, there weren't nearly as many illegal immigrants in the United States during President Obama's terms than there have been in President Trump's terms. And there was a huge surge of illegal immigration because of the open border policies of President Joe Biden and the 4 years of destruction, watching videos of people pouring through and nobody doing anything about it. Period. And so I will cede that it's much more intense today than it's ever been. And you can certainly have an opinion on that, and you should. But when we look at logic and look at emotion, the Renee Good situation, she is innocent until proven guilty. I know she's dead. If that officer did something he was not supposed to do, then the book should be thrown at him. But if he was acting in self-defense, he was acting in self-defense. Now, the Alex Pretti situation, this ICU nurse who was in the middle agitating. He was agitating. He was in the way. Yes, people are trying to clip the videos to make it look like, oh, he was just there taping and they pushed him over to the side. That didn't happen either. He also needed to be arrested and moved out of the way. He had a gun. I believe in his First Amendment right. It sounds like he was legally able to hold a handgun and possess a weapon, and that's fine. The video seems to show that the officers take his gun away. Now, again, I'm sure there's hopefully some body cam footage or some other angles, just like in the Good situation. The first couple of days of the Good situation, all these self-righteous sons of guns and politicians were like, this is just Donald Trump's America. He's just using police to murder citizens out in the streets, and he's shooting them and executing them in the streets. And then a couple of days go by, and this body cam or this camera footage comes out from the officer, and showing he got hit. And then a couple days after that, the doctor's like, yeah, he's got major internal bleeding in his hip area, after the mayor of Minneapolis is like, oh, he just got hit with a feather. Ridiculous amount of leading with emotion. These people should be tossed out of office, not because of their politics, but because of their blatant stupidity to open their mouths far before the facts show up. Of any party. Don't lead with emotion. Now, Alex Pretti got killed, and there's no telling why. It will come to light. If somebody got spooked and thought he had another weapon, if that truly what was being taken away was not a weapon, it looks like it was he disarmed prior to that? Did somebody get trigger happy and do what they shouldn't have done? I don't know. But what I will tell you is, if you think right now, I was arguing with somebody just the other day, and I hate arguing on Facebook because the internet is a cesspool of just people who just are stuck with unable to independently think, because anything that Orange Man does is bad, or anything that Sleepy Joe does is bad. Like everything. Like if Donald Trump found a cure for cancer, they would find a problem with it because Orange Man bad. And the Orange Man bad crowd is like, he's just letting these people be gunned down. This is 1937 and the chancellor has risen. What ridiculousness. Get out of here. You're part of the problem. Your implacability, your inability. Now, look, if these officers or this officer acted illegally, they should absolutely pay the absolute price. 100%. They should, whatever that is, it should happen. I 100% support our law enforcement. But those that act outside of their training and act illegally should be punished to the extent of the law. Period. But until that happens, this is not nearly as clear as the good situation. And of course, the good situation will find its way and we will know more about it. But it's much less clear in the situation with Pretti. But we should absolutely stand by. We should let the justice process work out. And if something happened that should not have happened, now that doesn't mean we shouldn't have a conversation about de-escalation. We're going to get to that here in a second. But I just wanted to give you kind of a look at those two situations, and they're entirely different. But it leads to this conversation of everyone thinks that Donald Trump has gone off the haywire bandwagon. And these are all laws today that are already in place. None of them are new. We have just never had presidents and Border Patrol enforcement the way we have it today. Now, some may say maybe it's too much. That is a perfectly valid position to have. I also believe that maybe there's a little bit different of a way we can go about it. But I largely support that those that are in this country illegally, first, the criminals and the bad actors. Second, those that continue to come in here after the first time around being deported. We'll talk about what that means in a second. Those should be the first and second targets. And then if otherwise we come across folks that are here illegally, they should have to go back and reset themselves and get back in line. But that also leads to issues with the current legal immigration system. And the reason why we get so many illegal aliens is, one, because the government's never enforced it to this level. But two, because the legal immigration process is so long and so broken, it almost makes no sense in the span of a life. I had a friend that took 11 years to get a green card. He possessed great skill and brought great, just positive influence on the people around him and in this country. And he was doing everything the legal way. And he had to go back to his home country and got stuck there for several years before coming back to finally get, and he did everything the right way. 11 years is far too long. The legal system is broken, and the legal system needs to be repaired and fixed. And until we do that, we're going to continue to have these enforcement problems. Period. And I know that there has been, for the first time, a net out that we have deported more people than have come across. That's great. We need to continue that in the next 3 years and beyond, perfectly honest. And get in line in the legal immigration system. Now, again, Donald Trump has taken, different angles on asylum and helping out special countries and special groups. And again, I think that there are people who are marginalized. There are people that need to come here through no fault of their own. There's all of these different pieces and things that I think the president has taken a wrong angle on, 100%. But when it comes to illegal immigration, I think he is spot on. How we go about it in enforcement and sending officers may need to be tweaked. And I think the president knows that as well. But illegal immigration cannot stand. We had over 7 million migrant encounters under President Joe Biden. That's more than the population of 36 individual states. 7.2 million migrant encounters. Now, I don't know how many of those actually stayed here. Some of them, of course, were deported. But a lot of them came over the border. That's unsustainable. And when I talk about the president needing to make change, I'm glad he's done it before I had to say it. But this Bovino, the Gregory Bovino, who was kind of the commander at large, who was in charge of this whole general operation, seems to be being pulled out. And I don't know if it's because of his tactics. I don't know if it's just optics, like we got to make a reset. But regardless of that, who they're sending in is a commensurate expert, Tom Homan. He's the former top immigration official, and now he's Trump's border czar, to help oversee and reset. And I know some people are like, this guy, he's the worst of the worst. This man was given, I forget what the medal was. I don't think it was the Presidential Medal of Freedom but it was a medal around his neck during the Obama administration, because Obama, of course, deported a lot of people. And he was working for border enforcement, and he was given a medal by a very liberal Democrat. And now today he's the boogeyman for doing the exact same thing he did before. But because, of course, it's all about the narrative, and it's all about agitation, and it's all about rhetoric and all these things. But I think this is a huge positive step, because he's going to follow the law on both sides of it. He is going to enforce the law when it comes to rooting out illegal immigrants, specifically in this operation, the criminals and the bad actors, but then he's also going to hold his men and women accountable to the highest standard. Tom Homan coming is a huge net positive. Now, I've talked about this as we kind of work through this. We have to have legal immigration reform in order for all this to work. But when it comes to illegal immigration, we need an equal amount. Until we solve the legal immigration issue, we will never actually solve the illegal immigration issue. Period. We won't do it. And some people are all over the place saying, well, illegal immigration is just a civil matter. It's just civil. It's not criminal. These people aren't criminals. We have to blah, 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 blah. Understand that it's really a hybrid. This is not the same as going to small claims court because you didn't pay a bill. Illegal immigration is still a misdemeanor in this country. And illegal immigration after being deported, if you do it again, is a felony and is a criminal matter in this country. And illegal immigrants who either come back a second time illegally or are breaking criminal laws are criminals. There are people who have come across the border and who have tried to make a better life and have tried to do all the good things, but they erred in the first step. They still have to come through the legal process. And what that means, I think, in this country now today is you go back home, wait in line. And I saw some staggering statistic that like 2 million illegal immigrants we have given them, I think, some cash and a free flight home. Which, by the way, for those of you trying to connect all this with Nazi Germany, I think the Holocaust Museum was real offended. I saw that tweet saying that these are not the same things. Because what happened at the Holocaust was the genocide of the Jewish people. And what's happening here is illegal immigrants are being given money and a free flight home. Ridiculous if you are talking like that. Shame on you if you're talking like that. We have a lot of issues in this country, and immigration, we've got to fix them. But I'll be darned if we're going to sit here and continue to let these comparisons be made because it's not the same thing. You don't have to like it. You can vote against it. If you think that what is happening in the United States today on immigration is abhorrent, go vote. Go talk to your U.S. Senator. Go talk to your member of Congress. Send a letter to the White House. You go protest, but do not agitate. Do not put yourself in an untenable situation that might get you killed. Don't impede lawful enforcement of the law. You have avenues under the First Amendment, but you do not have a right to put yourself in between police and lawful of any law. That's of any law. If someone's trying to arrest someone who they just saw rob a bank, you don't get to stand in between them either and stop them. And of course, everyone's like, sure, of course, that makes perfect sense. Now, I'm not trying to equate bank robbery to illegal immigration, but that it is lawful enforcement no matter what. And if you impede, you are then part of the problem and get arrested. What happened to Good and what happened to Pretti are 100% tragedies. Tragedies. Wish it wouldn't have happened even with what occurred. I don't want people to die. But politicians like Fry, the mayor of Minnesota, the mayor of Minneapolis, and Tim Walz, the governor, who's standing behind his border fence around his big governor's mansion, telling people to go blow your whistles and get in their face and get in between them, is the greatest optic fail that I have seen in quite some time. Standing behind your big metal gate with your security around you, telling people, I'm willing to make the sacrifice of you to ensure that we stop these people in our state. We've got to get a hold of this. People like Fry and people like Governor Walz are agitating violence. Period. Now, again, I'm not saying that we can't do some things better with the enforcement process. If these folks need to be retrained, we need to let the investigation take place for both of these, and then there needs to be actionable items. If nothing was done wrong, then tell us why. But it's not like these people are just untrained. Everyone acts like, well, they're not real law enforcement. No, they're 100% real law enforcement. They just have a different way in a process. A cop is not trained like a member of the military. ICE is not trained like a police officer. They're all trained differently to do different functions, which is why law enforcement at the local level should cooperate with federal law enforcement. Of course, the governor and the mayor are absolutely not doing that. You won't hear that. They're telling their folks not to help, essentially, they're telling them to abdicate their duty. Shame on them. You don't have to like it. But if it is lawful, then go change the law. Make the law different. Don't tell these people to ignore the law because you don't like it. Unless it is unconstitutional, which none of this is. The law is the law. And there's conversation now about defunding ICE and getting rid of ICE. And now there's a bipartisan spending bill that now is off the rails in Congress, especially at the Senate, because Democrats have, of course, seized on the moment to, of course, not do the right thing for the American people, but rather to stick it to everybody. And now they're going to probably kill this bipartisan piece, which right in the middle of a major winter storm that has devastated communities where there's tons of energy resources out and people are stuck in their home. I mean, we got 11 inches here in Indianapolis area. There are places in eastern Pennsylvania that got 24 inches. These people are going to need help, and we're going to blow out the funding for FEMA and everybody else because we want to stick it to the Republicans on ICE because now we're not going to fund them. And let me tell you what, someone else who is an incredible agitator is Sharon Says So. Sharon, what's her name? America's government teacher, who has turned out to be a far leftist who shrouded herself as some moderate, who is absolutely should be ashamed of herself, is now telling people to go out and call your senators and tell them to stop this funding. That's not the answer. I'm not saying that there can't be better standards, especially through these investigations. I'm not saying that people should not be held to account. But defunding ICE is like defunding the police. Defunding law enforcement is un-American, and shame on Sharon and other fake agitating influencers who bring nothing to the table. Shame on them for their stance of defunding law enforcement, making us less safe. Minneapolis tried to defund the police after what happened in Minneapolis with, what's his name? I don't know why I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. George Floyd. And they had to reverse course because crime skyrocketed in their communities. And they had to, no, please take your money. Come back. Please put more police on the street. And by that time, they were already in a rut. And I don't even know if they've ever recovered with the amount of police that they need in that community. And of course, they don't let them enforce the law anyway. But they all the cities that went to defund the police all came crawling back with as much money as they could throw at the problem, already knowing that they created the rut in the hole. That's because, and that's why I say, all these, I could go on, and I don't want to sound angry, but I'm agitated on both sides. I'm upset with people who bring nothing to the table but emotion, who orange man bad, so everything must be bad, who can't independently think, who don't think innocent is until you're innocent until proven guilty, who think none of those things as long as it fits in their narrative. And then the other side of this, the same thing. It's like, okay, that doesn't mean that we can't shift tactics and look a little differently at this. Both of those things are true. Both of those things are true. Lawful immigration enforcement and recalibrating the actions are both true things that can and must happen at the same time. We have to de-escalate this. We have to investigate these things. Both sides need to come together and work together. Local law enforcement, state law enforcement, federal law enforcement should be working on this because it is lawful and legal and right. And ensuring those that need to be held to account are held to account is right. And bringing Tom home in and getting rid of what's-his-face for now is right. Reset things. Hold your people to a higher standard. But agitators should not be blowing whistles in police face, getting in their way, putting their bodies, putting their cars. You are putting themselves and others at danger. All of these things are true. And so what is it that we change? That's exactly it. We tone down the rhetoric. We enforce the laws. If you don't like the laws, lobby to change the laws. Get your people elected to change those laws. Don't defund law enforcement. Fix the legal immigration system. And then continue to enforce illegal immigration issues on all spectrums, focusing on criminals first. Then those that continue to come who shouldn't be, and then your first-timers. There is so much rhetoric. The little kid, the media lied, the left lied. They got caught in a lie. That the police arrested him and then put him on a fishing pole and used him as bait to get the others out. When the father abdicated, as a father, shame on him, abdicated his responsibility and ran away and left his kid. And the police had to take him and keep him warm and feed him and try to give him back to his family, who had nothing to do with the criminal act. The other guy, as he's running away as a coward. And what did the media say? Oh, the police, Trump hates children. He's separating children, which are all Obama policies, by the way. Separating and if you get pulled over for drunk driving and you got a kid in the car, you get separated. I could go on and on and on with facts instead of emotion and information and statistics rather than just whatever I feel in the moment, right? They tried to return this kid, and the media lied about it, and the left lied about it. And then they just destroy and damage everything, and then they just walk away. I'm sorry about that. I guess I was wrong. Or they don't even do that. They just walk away from the scene of the crap that they've created and the lies that they've perpetrated. And then the media puts it whale deep in a story somewhere you'll never read in the lifestyle section with their retraction. The media is a big driver of the division in America, and they're the big driver of the lies in this. And this is not happening in other places, by the way. Almost 25%, I think it's 23% of ICE enforcement is occurring in the state of Texas. You ain't seeing a lot of this stuff. There's been little things in little places, especially in liberal metro cities or in Portland. But the vast majority of this happens in Minneapolis, and it's because it's become so radicalized there. After George Floyd. It was already a weird place. This is a state that elected Jesse the Body Ventura as its governor at one point, who might elect the Pillow Man as their governor down the road here. It's it's a weird place. And I hate to say that because I've been there and it's lovely and I have friends there and it's great. But there's a subset of people who've become radicalized who destroy everything they have and destroy other people's stuff and destroy their lives and then go back and blame somebody else. We can't have that. But all of these things can be true. And if you are siding with one side or the other, you're wrong. And you need to go back and look at this objectively. And that's what I feel I have. I mean, I'm upset. But all of these things can be true at the same time. And I've listed them all. And from there, I've got to end this because the show has gone long. Thank you so much for coming and listening. I'm sorry for the late arrival of the show. I'm so thankful for each one of you. mikeontheright.com. You can listen to this and all other episodes. You can watch it. It takes you to your favorite streaming location. Like, share, 5-star ratings, subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a great week.